Dear Morgan, today is Sunday, November 14th, and it was my last day in the chair. I'm still in the chair, and I will be getting out at midnight tonight. And I think there's going to be a little bit of a get-together so everyone can have a good laugh at how well I walk once I get out of the chair for the end of the week. Anyways, I didn't do too much today. It was just a day of hanging out, getting some homework ready, some to-do lists for next week, and then watching some movies with people. While I was doing that, I have had a lot of time to reflect on this past week and what exactly I've been feeling. And there's two things that I wanted to talk about today, just in terms of reflection about this week. I think there's going to be a lot in the coming weeks that I notice. People have been asking me today, like, what have you learned the most? Do you feel like you've changed as a person? And I think, yeah, I already have. I'm a lot more observant when I walk into buildings. I'm a lot more observant about people and that type of thing. But I think the whole total implication of this project will come gradually as the weeks go on after this project and as I continue to learn. I have two topics I wanted to just delve into for a little bit, and they were suggested to me, and I really did think about them a lot today. And one of those things is communication. This week I had the hardest time communicating with people without using my hands. I am such a hand talker, and I almost felt like I needed to put gloves on and tape my hands down so I wouldn't use my hands to speak. And also, I did a lot of teaching people how to use my phone and asking them to do things and which button to hit and when and where. And I never realized how much I relied on using my fingers and my hands to point out which button needs to be hit when and where the button is and that type of thing. And I got really frustrated when I couldn't explain to the person where the button was, what button it was, especially if there wasn't a intelligible symbol to communicate to them. If I didn't know what the symbol was called that was on the phone, or if there was something like an arrow and there were many different arrows and I didn't know which one to choose from, and I couldn't tell them, and it was really difficult. And it got me thinking, like, I use my hands a lot, but taking that ability away is something huge. I followed that train of thought a little bit and thought about what you do to help point out things to people, explain things to people, especially because our communication techniques are not completely, but extremely different. A lot of times people ask you to continuously repeat yourself over and over again, and I know I do that sometimes with you because I don't know what you've said, and I bet that probably gets frustrating sometimes. I don't want to make assumptions for you, but I think if it were me and if I couldn't speak like I am now, then I would get extremely frustrated with trying to explain to people what I want, what I need, when I need it, and where it is. And that's been a huge thing for me this week is people, before the week started, they go, well, are you going to be able to talk? And I say yes, because I don't know, I guess it was hard enough with what I was doing. And taking away speech was a step that would have made things incredibly difficult. And so that was a big difference between my life for this week and what your life is normally, in terms of speech and how you communicate with people. So what do you find helps when you're communicating with people? What do you do to try and make your point clearer? Does it frustrate you when people don't know what you're saying and ask you to repeat it over and over again? And how does that make you feel? I think it would really frustrate me. But you live with it day to day, and I wanted to know how you cope with that type of thing and if there are any pointers you have. I also tried to imagine what it would have been like trying to explain this project with difficulties in communication alike to yours. How it would come off to people, how I would try and explain it, and how much I'd have to rely on the people around me to speak for me. And as soon as I thought that, I would say, no, I want to do it. I want to tell them. I wouldn't want people to have to do it for me while I'm sitting right there. I don't mind when people tell other people while I'm not around, but I love being able to tell people myself, to experience telling someone about it myself. And it was just kind of an eye opener, another one this week. But all it took was a little bit of reflection and situational thinking to put myself in the position of you with your communication abilities and try and explain it to other people, and how difficult that would be, or how different, I guess. Maybe not difficult, but just how different, and how I would have to get around that to articulate my point. Communication is something that means a lot to me, and I think that verbal and nonverbal, it's a really important part of life. And to have that taken away, it would be a huge shock, and something that I'd really have to work around and get used to. And I really have a lot of respect for how you communicate with other people and how you connect with them. I've never met a person who knows more people than you do. Everyone you meet says hi to you when you walk down the hallway, and you have a really interesting personality, and you engage people even if sometimes your speech is difficult to understand. And I think that's a really amazing gift. And I don't know, communication and speech fascinates me. It's something that I'm studying in some classes that I'm taking, and it's really it's a part of this project that I didn't consider until yesterday and today. Something that I explain to people, well, no, I'm not having difficulties of speech and that type of thing. I will be speaking as normal this week, and that's where I kind of left it, but I didn't put myself in your shoes. And I wonder how many people put themselves in their shoes. How would you communicate this if you couldn't articulate yourself completely? How much would you have to rely on other people when speech is taken away? I mean, we all know what we do if, our hearing or our eyesight was taken away. We can imagine that, but how many times do we imagine exactly what it would be like if our speech was taken away? And I think a lot of people would feel like some of their independence was taken away if they had to rely on other people to speak for them. So I don't know, it was just a really interesting concept to think about. I'm glad it was brought to my attention so that I could reflect upon it today and put myself in your situation throughout the last week and in the future. And I really had a good think about it. And I'd like to know what you think about it, about communication and how you speak versus how I speak.